Your source for all things Texas Tech. This is the Ask Level podcast from Double T 97.3.
Hey, what's happening? Welcome into another episode of the Ask Level podcast alongside the Chris Level. I'm Chois Woodman. This podcast, as usual, brought to you by our friends at Cantex Roofing and Construction.
I'm Mike Hebert, owner of Cantex Roofing and Construction. Every day is game day, and we'll get it right when it comes to your roofing, construction, windows, and mirrors. Call Cantex Roofing and Construction today. Together, we are one serving you.
Level, we have hit midsummer. We've got 4th of July coming up. Hopefully everybody's able to celebrate that and have some fun.
Can we all agree that as a sports fan that June is just rock freaking bottom? I mean, the July is not much better. But
Okay.
I mean, this is just the absolute dry spell. I mean,
Yeah.
over the weekend, I'm not proud of this, but over the weekend, it's like I'm stumbling around TV just trying to. There's pillow fighting on
Oh
ESPN2.
my gosh.
There was disc golf on ESPN News.
Okay.
I'm not opposed to like some frisbee golf or disc golf, but like watching it on TV, like, I mean, what are
Watching,
we
yeah.
doing?
Yeah.
It's the ESPN the Ocho, right? And I found myself having a beverage with some buddies, and we got enthralled in like the Gold Cup penalty kicks, and I'm like, what is wrong with me, man? But
That was
this
kind
is
of
how.
exciting though.
Yeah, it was. Like, yeah, the U.S.
Yeah.
and it was, I think it was Guatemala over Canada in some PKs.
Hmm.
And anyway, I just was like, I'm addicted, man. I'm addicted. Like, I'll
Get it?
just lead me to drink, and but I mean. It's like
It's true.
I'll just say this is using that analogy. It's like the water tastes terrible this time of year. If you lead me to the pond and
Fair.
make me drink, it's like the water. I'm like, I know I need this, but well, it's bad. I mean, okay, all right. Sorry, I didn't
No,
mean to.
I'm with you. I think as sports fans, man, like I know our schedules level gets so busy in the fall and it just resets and we're going. So I am enjoying the little rest and relaxation, but at the same time I'm itching. I cannot
Yeah.
wait until football season is back and we get to
It
jump
is
in.
it is a necessary evil to have the dry spell
Uh-huh.
because it is also what makes you appreciate and enjoy the months that are rolling. And if it was like that all the time, then we probably wouldn't appreciate it as much and all that. So I certainly get it. It's like you got to have an appreciation for first gear before you can appreciate sixth gear or fifth gear,
Touche.
whatever. And yeah, and so I get it. I'm just verbalizing that first gear sucks.
Okay. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean,
I
yeah,
get it.
you need it. You need it in the icy weather. You need it
Right.
in mud and all that. And you got to have it. Okay, but man, it's fun. It's a lot more fun to drive fast.
Very much so. Very
Yeah,
much so. That's
yeah.
why driving through the state of New Mexico sucks. I mean, come on, get your speed limits up a little bit more. Okay, so I mean, you mentioned the appreciation and the buildup. Man, I don't. The buildup for this season for football is just. It feels like it's mounting. The closer you get, the more articles are written and this and that. Of course, the big article, and there's a question regarding that from CBS Sports this past week that was it's a long read, but a very, very good read if you haven't gotten to take it in. It's kind of the behind the scenes with Cody Campbell and Joey McGuire and every bit of this putting together this massive transfer portal class, but it takes a look and it sheds good light on Lubbock and this and that. I think it was very well done, obviously. So if you haven't taken a chance to read it, I would highly encourage you to do so. But my point is level that every bit of buildup just feels like there's more anticipation for this season than maybe one you've had in almost 2 decades around here.
Yeah, I think Joey's second year there was
Uh-huh.
some hype and
Agreed.
some predictions, but yeah, nothing like this. And this is but this is also different from 2008 too. I think 2008 you were a slam dunk to be a contender in
Yes.
a variety of things.
Mhm.
I can't say the same with this particular team, although this team may be more talented, but there's a bit more like uncertainty, and maybe it's the scar tissue and the PTSD from years gone by to where you're like, I don't know,
Yeah.
but because you're not guaranteed to contend. I don't think. I think some think you are, but there's also plenty that think a variety of other teams will contend. We're talking for the Big 12 title, and I think at last check I'm at up to we've talked about this before, like seven different teams I've seen picked to win this deal,
Yeah.
which is that's dumb or cool or basically it means nobody knows nothing.
Well, it seems like everybody, including the folks out in the desert, have just thrown their hands up a lot because of what happened last year and said, "Your guess is as good as ours. What's going to happen here?"
Yeah.
Because last year everybody beat up on everybody, and you had a few teams separate, but it was still a four-way tie for first place at the end of the regular season. So I think that's kind of the approach this year.
And one of those contenders, I know we'll get into this, but one of those contenders, just since we've last visited, took a massive hit.
Yeah.
And the truth be told, I haven't seen a lot of, for whatever reason, I just haven't seen. This was prior to even this news coming out or even being reported. BYU, after winning 11 games last year, I think everybody thought they would be in the mix. I just haven't seen anybody pick them
No.
and now certainly not with their quarterback situation. And he's Retzlaff is leaving BYU reportedly, and
Uh-huh.
at the minimum going to play or be suspended 7 games. I think there's a lot of chatter about Notre Dame, so we'll see where he ends up. But that was really on paper maybe your biggest home game. And if he were to stay at BYU, I did look at this enough that he'd be suspended for 7 games. Well, they play you in their ninth game.
Hmm.
So if he were to stay, he would be back and eligible to compete and everything for BYU because he's been accused of some things, but you're not supposed to have premarital sex up there based on the
Hmm.
honor code and all that, and he has admitted to that and all those things. No crimes were broken, just the Mormon scenarios.
Sure. Sure.
Anyway, and I think that'll be a major storyline at Big 12 Media Days, just the BYU quarterback situation, because they're going to try to go at it with what I think three quarterbacks right now. Yeah, are you familiar with the names of McKay Hillstead? How about Bear Bachmeier
It's a cool
or
name.
or Trayson Bourget? Yeah, so there's your
Yeah.
yeah, so that's what they're likely to go to bat with this year. But point taken in that you're right. Nobody knows.
Yeah.
And the Big 12 basically is like, yeah, we don't want to even try to force this, so we're going to not even do a Big 12 preseason media poll.
Yeah, that was some very interesting news that came out this past week. It doesn't matter largely that much, but it's still something that's, you can correct me if I'm wrong, kind of unprecedented for a conference, especially a major conference, to take this route, right?
When I was doing the show with Dickens
Hmm.
there in those 97.3 or 104.3 studios from years
Hmm.
gone by, we would often poke at this poll
Right.
because sometimes you wouldn't even get a ballot. Sometimes 60 something people would
Right.
vote. Other times 110 would vote. Like who was getting it? You had to write it down, fax it in, scan it to them. Very, very
Yeah.
cumbersome process
Yeah.
instead of like a point and click and electronic version.
Hmm.
They couldn't force anybody to vote, but who was getting these ballots? And it was typically people that had signed up for media credentials to go to Big 12 Media Days.
Sure.
Um, and I always just but it's the one poll that everybody points to the most. It's the one that the
Correct.
coaches get asked about the most, and it's probably the most. I don't know if I want to say like inaccurate or it's just it's extremely flawed because it's not a true read of what the media thinks because not all the media participated and which media did and where's the cutoff
Yeah.
and I mean, come on. So anyway, I get why they're doing it because I think in some ways it made the league look really good that the 16th place team in the media poll last year won the league, but in many ways the PR part of it was really bad.
Hmm.
And maybe points to the flawed poll or process. But also, I think you're putting some of these teams in a wide open league with one arm tied behind their back, and they don't want to be a reason. I think the coaches felt this way,
Yeah.
okay? Because the coaches had, I think the coaches and the league and everything, like they decided to agree together. But I think that you are also helping out some of the stereotypes
Yeah.
by suggesting that, yeah, we don't think these guys are any good. Well, yeah, they keep winning. So what's that say about your league? Kind of thing. So I think they're just going to leave
Right.
it up to the imagination now. I will say I do think, and I'm curious, very curious, if they still do the coaches poll. That would be the one that we would point to and look at, and that's the one where each coach fills it out and you can't vote for your own team
Yep.
and all that. And maybe that's a better read of it. I don't know.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I think more quietly, I think basketball has already gone this route. I don't think there's been a media poll the last couple of years. I think it has just been a preseason coaches poll.
You're accurate.
So
Yep, yep.
so
You're
I mean
accurate.
it's kind of a big. I don't know if it's a. I saw
Because
someone
nobody
say
because nobody goes to the hardly goes and attends the Big 12 media days.
true in basketball.
Like
Yeah,
for basketball, because it's in October, football's running like crazy,
exactly.
and
Yeah,
it's in like on a Tuesday and Wednesday, and you're like, man, like I can't.
jump out to Kansas City. Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
right.
So yeah, I saw someone mention it's a bad look because the league got it, or because the poll was so wrong last year, and now you're dumping the poll, and I don't agree with all that, but I just thought it was interesting. It's kind of a headline grabber for a little bit, but I think we'll probably forget about it in after this year. I mean, that there was no poll, and if there is, I guess if there is still a coaches poll, because I'm with you. If that's still there, it's something to reference and something to look at. But at the same time, we've talked about at level these preseason polls, while they shouldn't matter, they still do. They still, plant seeds and brains, and they still give preconceived notions about teams that you don't really need, especially if you're a league like the Big 12 Conference.
Well, and you're talking about there's the Big 12 media one, right?
Right,
That you're
right.
kind of touching on, but then where the real damage gets done is the preseason AP and the preseason USA Today poll. Those because those carry weight,
Exactly.
and I think that it is some would argue they're necessary evils, but it's much harder to slot any of those teams now because teams change so
So
much
much. Yep.
in these off seasons. And I mean, how screwed up is it that Joey McGuire is basically saying one of the biggest things for us at stake here in Memphis, Tennessee, against these Arkansas Razorbacks is we need to win this thing because it sets us up for,
Right.
for next year.
It's
And
silly.
this is your backups versus their backups,
A lot of it.
and yet it has nothing to do with the collection of talent that you've put together and all that for this coming season. So I don't know, but it certainly is a bit outside the box. Maybe it'll become more the norm. I don't know. But some of this is on the Big 12 too. Over the years, I don't know exactly who to point to in that, and just their flawed way of doing it,
Mhm.
or and I'm not saying I have the answers on. I just think it lacked too much participation at times, and it was cumbersome. And I'll even add this in too. They're still going to give you a Big 12 preseason team, and the first team QB and all the like, and even those are need to be modernized.
Sure they do.
There's a spot on there, or has been, for a fullback.
Yeah.
Only
Kansas
two.
State gets that one every
Well,
year.
yeah, and only two spots for receivers when everybody's trotting out three and four starting receivers in these new offenses and everything like that. These hybrid positions on defense. So
Yeah.
anyway, I think that's also a bit flawed, but they still have said they're gonna give you those or give you that. So
Yep.
we'll see.
Okay, level.
And speaking of, I'm gonna stop right there.
You're good.
Who will be the preseason offensive player of the year in this league?
Oh, that's a great question.
It is a good question.
Because this next time we talk, we'll know the answer to this.
I would think
Um,
so. I have who I think it will be.
Preseason offensive player of the year. I guess Sam Levitt,
I think you'll be accurate there.
but
Yeah.
I don't feel like
And
that's a
and, and
shoe
maybe
in.
and maybe it'll be his. No, I think that's why it's a great question.
Yeah.
I think that maybe he's earned some of that just based on last
Sure.
year and
Sure.
right, wrong, or indifferent. And maybe it'll be his receiver that would be preseason player of the year, and Jordan
Yeah.
Tyson, Jalen Tyson's brother.
Sure. Sure.
I think that if Avery Johnson will get some votes. I think Sawyer Robertson could get some votes. I don't know, but I think that's and you could we could throw this around too and say the same thing, like who's the defensive player of the year? I
Yeah.
don't know.
Over on. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Go ahead. You're
Well,
first.
while we're here, over under 3.5 players for Texas Tech on this preseason list.
Uh, Total
Yeah.
over.
Over. I would think
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. I think Jacob Rodriguez and Lee Hunter
Yep.
and potentially Caleb Douglas are, I don't want to say assured, but when you finish last year like on a second team or first team scenario and you're back in the league,
Sure. That helps a lot. Yeah.
I think I think your David Bailey's.
There's four right
um,
there. Yeah.
yeah, and you can squint a bit more, and like you could, Cole. I'm telling you, man, Cole Wisniewski.
I'm all
I
in with you. Yeah.
mean, yeah, he's gonna. I think people will know his name.
Yeah. Led led all college football in interceptions 2 seasons ago before being hurt
Yeah,
last year. Yeah. I think he's been overlooked because he didn't play last year, but man, I'm excited about him. Yeah, you got a few options that could show up on that list here in a week or so. Okay, we've got kind of scatter shooting on questions level. There is one from Sam. It says level.
are you old enough to remember now? I don't think you are,
Okay.
but you know where that term, as far as sports journalism, came from? Well, I don't know if it necessarily came from. You know where I was taught that scatter shooting. So way back in I grew up in the Metroplex,
Okay.
and there used to be, there was the Four Star Telegram and the Dallas Morning News, which is still, but then
Yeah.
there also used to be something called the Dallas Times Herald.
Okay.
And the Dallas Times Herald had a longtime writer named Blackie Sherrod. And he used to do a weekly column called Scattershooting, and
Ooh.
it kind of was way before its time. And this is way back in the day when I was some young nerd kid, and like I just sit down with these sports pages and eat my Lucky Charms or whatever, and I'd almost just read them, reread them,
Right.
memorize it. Why? I don't know. My mom's like, "Well, this ain't helping you in algebra." I'm like, "Yeah, I know." But that was my jam. But yeah, scatter shooting, and I've never forgotten that. Sorry, I didn't mean
I
to
like it.
interrupt.
No, that's
Yeah.
hey, we're here to learn level. Here to learn. Okay, so we'll start with Sam. This one says, level, this might be a bit of a nerdy question because it's about video games, But were you surprised to see Texas Tech with the ninth best defense overall in the upcoming college football video game?
Part of me rolls my eyes at this kind of thing,
Uh-huh.
but then part of me is smart enough to understand that this is very meaningful to a lot of people.
It is.
I think the EA folks, um, they are looking at a variety of metrics, and I think that on paper, I think that you check a lot of boxes from the analytical, and then that's where a lot of this is being pulled from. I think if anything, it helps your street cred. Okay, I don't know what that's worth,
Okay.
but they are taking into consideration PFF grades and all these different things,
Sure.
and I was not surprised. No, I mean I think the best defense I can remember you having was around that '07, '08, '09 range
Hmm.
because you had legit NFLers on there.
Yep.
Darcel, Jamar Wall, who played forever in the CFL, a cup of coffee in the NFL. You had like a Brandon Williams, who was a mid-round NFL pick.
Sure.
I mean, you just had really good players sprinkled throughout, and while some of them weren't NFL guys, you had really good. Do you know? I think I looked this up the other day, and I think I'm right here. I think I'm right. But you know what the total defense rank was that year? And I think it was '08, which was the sweet spot.
I don't know. No.
I think it was like 76th,
Okay.
and it was a they turned people over. They were good enough for the most part when it mattered, unless it was in Norman, Oklahoma.
Mm.
And
Yeah, that game alone
so
probably brought you down 20 spots, but
fair, yeah, fair. I think when you give up 60 plus
yeah.
and whatnot, I don't disagree. Um, you were ranked 122nd or something, I think, last year in total defense. And again, you can look at a variety of these metrics: scoring defense, turnover margin, all the things. But a lot of programs, just for simplicity's sake, total offense, total defense. It's the one that kind of tells the story the most. Not the whole
Yep.
story, but because last year in total offense, you were, I think, like eighth, seventh, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
My point is that okay, so they are saying to you that you're what, ninth on paper?
Ninth on paper. Yep.
What if you go from like 120-ish to 45th in total defense? How much better does that improve your team? Because you were one measly win away from being in Arlington last year. Now, granted, I don't know if
Yeah.
your offense will be quite as good this year, but maybe it will be.
Maybe.
Maybe it'll be better because I think that the video game also says that your offense on paper is supposed to be pretty good as well.
Let's see. Offense is
Like 18th?
18th best,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
overall team was 13th best. So,
Yeah, yeah. So you're not asking for to be the top 10 defense,
yeah.
but what happens if you can just get into the 40s or 50s? And again, it would be on paper one of the best defenses you've trotted out there in 20 plus years, if not the best. And again, it will be. There's a lot of good quarterbacks in this league, and it's tricky week to week and all the things. But because total defense and total offense, they're just based on
Yeah.
yardage gained, yardage given up. It doesn't account for
Sure. Points.
scoring and red zone defense and all the turnovers and all those things. But anyway, it is because I mean now if you dare to dream a little bit, you squint and like if you get into the top 20, okay,
Well,
look
I
out.
mean, how many times around here have we said if you just had an average defense to go
Yep.
along with your offense? We've said that it seems like countless times. If Pat Mahomes just had an average defense, and if the, I mean, I'm not saying your offense is going to be that level, but I still think you're going to be pretty salty on offense, where you've got a lot of good pieces around Baron
But if
Morton.
your
And
defense is potentially this good, your offense won't necessarily have to be.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So I think that, um, and that's why you get so excited for the season because there's so much potential. That's what it sits right now. This potential, but you kind of can dare to dream because Shieldwood, level he took Houston's defense, which was over 100, I believe it was close to 120, and brought them to a top 25 defense last year.
in the Big 12 conference.
So that's
Yeah.
him, and combine it with all these new players and fancy toys he's got to play with. It's
And he had, I mean, to
reason
be
to.
fair too, he had legit guys at Houston.
He
I mean,
did.
they're, he brought one of his D tackles. There's
Yeah.
a couple of their secondary guys that were really, really good. But I think even he has said, publicly and privately that like this is a different deal. So we shall see.
Yeah, if you improve your defense inside the top 50 this year, I feel pretty darn good about your shot to get to
The,
Arlington.
the key is I went and looked up everybody's last year. If you are in the top 40 in both, you are cooking with gas.
Yeah.
You are, if you're top 40 in both, there was a few minor exceptions last year. I think like Clemson's offense was like 48th or 52nd or something. Um, but I think if you go look at these playoff teams, they all had won double digit games. I even looked at Iowa State and BYU who won double digit games that didn't make it to the playoff. And again, top 40 in both, and
Yeah.
so that's really where it needs to be. So again, we'll kind of see what we get here.
All right, continuing the scatter shooting here level. Another one. This one comes from Matthew. Says in the CBS Sports article that we read, it talks about pressure. Which coach in the Big 12 or coaches has the most pressure on them heading into this season?
Well, I mean, I think Joey has a lot, and it's that's all about context and how
Hmm.
you define it. Because I just don't think that if they just come up short here, I don't think it's like okay or else. I don't. Well,
Right.
you're not doing that.
I think there's different, you can
Oh
have
yeah,
different pressure, but
there will be massive disappointment here,
yeah, yeah,
and there'll be a lot that go, okay, if not now, then when? I mean, I certainly
sure,
understand all that, but
sure.
I don't think you're going to go, okay, let's scrap all this and start over and
Hmm.
let's go. I mean, I don't think so. I think Joey's just too ingrained here, and it's been trending up, and you're going to keep swinging away and try to figure out a way to crack the code. Um, I think Scott Satterwhite has some pressure. I think that the Cincinnati folks are a bit frustrated. I think in some ways Dave Aranda has some pressure to
Okay.
level out. It's been really either high or low, and last year was a microcosm of both with their team.
Yep.
Because when they came to Lubbock, I mean, he was. I mean, if they lose that game in Lubbock, I mean, he may have not. That may have been it or close
Sure,
to it,
sure.
um, and I think now there's some expectations. So it's like, okay, well now you need to go do it. I think Sonny Dykes maybe has a little bit of pressure.
Okay.
Um, just because I think that there's even been some that have written like, and I'm not saying that something would happen, but if like they were to be under par again this year, and under par in this term would be not great. If they
Right.
would be under, 500 again or whatever. But I think that he would be firmly again. It would probably be more effective. Like okay, going into the following year, like yeah, you really need to. So it goes without saying that like Mike Gundy is when you have a school that like basically like says we're going to rework your contract,
Yep.
we're going to take money away from you, and we're going to switch your staff up, and he's got an interesting relationship with I think his bosses there. I think that I and
And
I,
0 and
I
9, I mean, that's as glaring as it gets too.
yeah yeah. So I think that one.
What about a Brent Brennan at Arizona? They
I
had a lot
still
of high expectations last
They
year.
did. He got the job late. I think he took over a bit of a tough situation. I bet he probably some pressure, but I'd be willing to bet you that he's got another year.
Okay.
And maybe some of these other guys do too. I'm just saying, but like I could see Scott Satterwhite being under the gun a bit because I think Cincinnati fancies themselves, right, wrong, or indifferent. They fancy themselves as being much better than they have been. That CFP, you know, season and Luke Fickle and all that,
Yeah.
that is in the distant rearview mirror. The Brian Kelly era, and even Tuberville was, they just have kind of won, and they just haven't been able to do that. So
Yeah.
maybe I don't know,
What was that, 3 seasons ago that they were in the college football playoff? It feels a
or
lot
or
longer.
or four,
Okay.
yeah, but
Yeah.
it wasn't that
It,
long
yeah,
ago.
it feels like
Yeah,
a long time.
yeah.
But yeah, so a lot of coaches with pressure. I don't know that anybody, again, pressure can mean your job's on the line or not. I don't know that anybody has more pressure than Joey McGuire. It's really high, and he's embraced that because he talked about that in that article, and
Mhm.
he's talked about it in other interviews. He knows it, and he said, uh, he said, "Hey, I would rather have a great team, all the players, and have the pressure rather than being trying to figure out, do we have any depth on this roster?" So, yeah. Let's get to one more level before we wrap up. All right, heck, I guess we'll hold over a couple of questions. It is 4th of July week, so how's the Level family usually celebrate 4th of July? I see you've still got all your digits, so I mean, you
I
a
did.
firework guy?
Well, yeah, there's been many. There has been a long time ago before my kids were born. I ran a fireworks stand for about 3 or 4 years, and yeah, it's you sell them to people. You're like, are you sure you want to spend your money on this? I mean, like, are you sure you don't want to, like, you don't need it to, whatever.
Yep, yep.
And
I hear you.
I like watching other people blow their money and shoot them up in the air and then not, because anytime you have
Sure.
alcohol and pyrotechnics and there's a little like kind of craziness in the air, like it's a free for all. You just, yeah, you gotta be careful out there. Again, it's alcohol and fire, not a good mix. But no, we've my godfather, he actually is one of the higher ups for TNT Fireworks, which is a national company, and
Yeah.
he's based out on the West Coast and everything. So we've been around the fireworks, but I mean, Woodman, I went to, they used to shoot off all the Ranger games I mean, the fireworks at the Ranger games,
Yep.
and like, any concert would roll into town. I went to a Michael Jackson concert in 1984 at Texas Stadium, the Victory Tour,
Whoa.
and they had the contract for all the pyro, and there was a lot. I was like 11 years old. And I mean, so, but like
That's
the
awesome.
July 4th shows. So we're talking, because there's class A, B, and C.
Hmm.
I can't remember which is which. Like either class A or class C is what you can go buy, and then the opposite of the spectrum is like the stuff that you've got to have a license, and
Right. Right.
this is like we're wiring it and drop it down into a. I mean,
A cannon.
I, I've seen the it looked like a blown up globe, like, world
Uh-huh.
globe, whatever. It was like blown up, and I mean, I bet it was the size of, like, say, 5 to 7 basketballs. Okay, like a massive, and it was the finale.
Yeah.
And it was the July 4th show along the river bottom right outside of downtown Dallas. And the metal mortar that they had to stick into the ground
Oh my
to
goodness.
to host the finale, and like the amount of gunpowder that it was going to take to like send this bad boy up. But like when it went up, it was like the whole thing. I mean, there
That's
was
crazy.
delayed response. But it's like that sound that, when you buy the artillery shells at the deal and you hear that, boom, like, and then you wait. Okay, where's it going? And I can see it. Oh, there it is. This one, I was like mesmerized by
That's
like
awesome.
just that alone, and they couldn't get that metal pipe out of that river bottom for years. And
Really?
I think because it was just so Massive, and I think they eventually just let the grass grow over it and just left it in there. But yeah, anyway, so I've been around the fireworks business all my life, but no, man, I leave other people to that deal.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah.
I mean, if you haven't, if partake in this podcast and you live in DFW or Houston or wherever around the state or all over the world, I mean, if you haven't spent a Fourth of July night in Lubbock where you can just sit up somewhere high, I mean, we are flat out here. You can see fire. I mean, it is an unbelievable sight. If you could sit on the edge of town somewhere up
Yeah,
high, it's
360 view.
it
Yeah.
is unreal to
Just
see
pick up your trash.
everybody.
That's all
Yeah,
I ask. Yeah,
that's
just go pick up your. And luckily, we've had plenty of rain around here recently, so
that
there
is
won't be
very good.
any problems for wildfire and all that business.
Very true.
Because the ground's very wet and all that stuff.
Very
Well,
true.
Woodman, appreciate you. Happy July 4th. We live in the greatest country that there is, and we will celebrate that later this week, depending on when you're watching and listening. But yeah, we're into close to being into July now, or into July, and just a few more months, and we'll have the football back.
Can't wait. Can't
Yep,
wait.
absolutely. Hey
All
man,
right.
appreciate it.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
That is Chris Level. I'm Choice Woodman. You've been tuned into the Ask Level podcast brought to you by Double T 97.3.
You've been listening to the Ask Level podcast, powered by Double T 97.3.